Hey y'all, and welcome back to Beric Saga. This is a return to old patterns after the really long maps that we've had to suffer through thus far in Chapter 5. This goes back to being a nice, short side quest, for which I am grateful. For this map, however, I do need to pull out as many of my very strong units as I can possibly manage, and the first step in that is hiring Sherpa. If you'll remember, he has a double plus weapon called the Brim Ranger, which means he's extremely effective at one-round KOing enemies. We also want to open up our menu and reactivate both Clifford and Faramir, because their strength is going to be necessary to complete this map in a short time. In addition to this, I'm going to be moving the Eagle Brace that I took from the boss of the last map over to Sherpa, just to give him a little bit of extra accuracy, because he does need to be hitting probably 2 out of 3 hits against most enemies in order to defeat them, so the bit of hit helps. Next up, I'm going to the atelier and storing my Pajuta grass in the slot there for the liquid magic, because I do intend to craft the liquid magic later on. So there's no reason for me to keep that around taking up space in my storage. And I am lastly going to be picking out a few of my weapons that I don't need so much anymore. Mostly stuff that's pretty close to broken, and I'm going to be selling that just for a few extra funds, and to be quite honest, to free up some extra space in Sylvis's inventory, because she is getting bogged down in crap, really. So now let's talk about the map. This is a map in which I have to defeat a large number of red units who are, in the story, escaped prisoners, and then my units have to escape. But what I'm actually going to be doing is, instead of escaping, I'm going to be routing the map and making use of a feature that I haven't seen yet, which is the escape all when you route feature. That's going to save me at least 1 turn overall. So obviously I want to be bringing all of the big combat units that I was talking about earlier. I also want to pick out specific training projects to make sure that they don't fall behind on experience. Sadly, I can't bring Dean because Sylvis is more important. Now, this map has a very strict order of actions for the first part of turn 1. The first of this is that Larentia needs to move straight over and one-hit KO this guy, because prior to the map, he was in a little cutscene where he talked about running to fetch Imperial reinforcements, and there is absolutely no way that I want to let that happen. This leads to Larentia being attacked by 2 previously invisible archers, which puts them in position to then be attacked by Sylvis on turn 1. Next up, I move Faramir up towards the yellow units. This baits out one of the red units, who Faramir easily kills, and because of that, Clifford is now free to move through and attack another one of these enemies. So Clifford is easily able to one-hit KO this guy, and it's okay if he misses, because Clifford takes 0 damage, so he's guaranteed to get a retry attack, and even without the spear bonus attack from moving, he is still capable of one-hit KOing here. Faramir's positioning is also very helpful because it baits out another invisible unit, a pickpocket, whom Faramir is capable of one-hit KOing, so that's also very reliable. We next want to move Kramer over to the cliffs and equip his Scimitar Plus. The Scimitar Plus isn't as accurate as the longsword, but it is a plus weapon, so it gives him 2 chances to deal about the same amount of damage, with a small-ish chance of straight-up one-round KOing the enemy that's going to attack him, so that's excellent. Sylvis managed to pick up a kill here, taking out one of the archers. This is why I deployed her over Dean, because it's a real struggle to get all of the kills that I need without relying on the RNG, and Dean lacking 2 range means that he cannot take this kill now in order to ease that a little bit. Sherpa is now being attacked by a yellow unit who has a devil axe. I think it's actually called something different, I think the crooked axe in this localization, but it has super high might, bad hit, and a backfire chance it's a devil axe. Sherpa, due to his lowered avoid from the Brim Ranger, is the only unit who will be attacked by this guy on this turn, so it's nice to have him out of the way. Clifford manages to pick up a useful critical hit here to eliminate another guy who he would fall 1 damage short of one-hit KOing otherwise, so that's very helpful. And Faye is going to be closing out the turn by using the repair stone on her cutlass once again. Turn 2 after that excellent RNG turn 1 is a much more relaxed affair. In fact, Sylphus is going to walk up to the other archer and completely miss him, and it's totally okay because of all the work we managed to do on turn 1. Although it would have been nice to get an extra kill on her, I'm sure we'll find more opportunities in later maps. Faramir gets whacked for an unfortunate amount of damage by this archer, which does mean I'm going to be switching to a backup strategy shortly, but I will get to that. For now, Kramer is going to move in and grab the enemy that Clifford crippled on the previous turn. Clifford himself is well within reach to pick up the other crippled enemy at his leisure, almost regardless of how far he manages to move. Laurentia is capable of dealing with the remaining archer, which is why it's okay that Sylphus missed earlier, and so she's able to canto towards the yellow units where she will come in handy on turn 3. One annoying thing that I learned during this map is that you cannot canto after capturing an enemy, so sometimes in my test runs I had to take kills instead of captures for Laurentia to be in the right place, which was kind of annoying. So here's the backup strategy. Faramir is going to walk up to the boss, and instead of attacking, he is going to use a vulnerary. This has to happen, because otherwise, if he takes damage from the boss, the enemy now attacking him will use his desperation skill instead, and that has a frustratingly high chance of killing Faramir, which obviously I do not want. Now, I can't use Sherpa here, because any useful thing he could do would put him in range of the boss, who has not yet acted. And we want the boss to go for Faramir, because Sherpa is not very dodgy against the boss. So instead, Clifford picks up the cripple, and that leads to the yellow reinforcements spawning around the boss area. These guys are the main obstacle in low turning this map, and they end their turns immediately, so we can't deal with them until next turn. Because the archer decided to attack Faramir earlier, he lost his Overwatch status, and that means that Sherpa is free to move in and deal with him by one-hit KOing him with Brim Ranger now that the boss has moved. And speaking of the boss, Faramir already went for a round against him, and now he has to go for another round to finally finish him off. He needs a critical hit in order to do so, but fortunately he manages to get an Iaedo proc and get that critical hit, defeating the boss and paving the way for this map to be finished shortly. The Desperation guy now runs down towards Faye and attacks her instead of trying to fight Faramir, which is kind of neat, because Faye actually missed out on her kill that I normally gave her over in the left-hand side of the map, and this means that she doesn't miss out on that experience. Although you'll notice that I did forget to have her equip the cutlass when she moved, so she only got one counter attack, and only because she was fortunate enough to dodge the enemy's desperation hit. And to top it all off, she also gets magic from her level up, which is just funny. At this point we want to stall a bit and let the reinforcements initiate combat against my combat units, because I want to keep their actions for as long as possible in order to be able to tidy up where necessary. Speaking of tidying up, Volo chipped an enemy, and we absolutely do not want to waste his action on finishing him off, because obviously Volo has Deathmatch, and that's a very powerful one-round KOing tool. So instead we bring Laurentia in, who has just enough power to do it, and she is then able to canto back out of the way in order to prevent anyone else from going for her and not dying. The other yellow unit on the left decides to go for Sherpa using the throw skill, and that's somewhat unfortunate because it means that Sherpa cannot counterattack. But because he used the throw skill instead of just attacking at one range, he re-equips his zero range weapon after that combat, and that renders him vulnerable to be one round KO'd by Volo's deathmatch. And meanwhile, Sherpa is more than enough to deal with the last two yellow units. There are a couple of treasures on this map that I missed. One of them is on screen in the boss area, and I hoped that I would have a spare action to pick it up, but it was not to be. The other one is all the way over to the far right of the map, and that's actually a treasure chest. So in order to get that, I would have had to deploy a thief, and obviously, as you've seen, I need all the combat that I can get on this map. So wasting a deployment slot on a thief to go running to try and reach it before I finish the map is not really a starter. Anyway, Sherpa finishes off the last enemy, and a screen pops up allowing me to just finish the map. And I am obviously going to say yes to that to complete the map in 3 turns. See ya!